Does everyone know what time it is? Yeah! That's right. It's time for a...
Dallas Beertalk, guys. I have made it in. I had a rough evening myself. I'm your host, Victor Santana. To the left of me, I have Drew, Beer Master, and then we have our special guest to the far left, replacing Kirsty for the evening.
The real Beer Master.
The real beer guru from Manhattan Projects. Introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Carl Sanford. I'm the founder and president of the Manhattan Project. We're here to drink a little beer, talk about beer. So
that's right.
I like the name. So, quick story. I without putting brewery, I Googled Manhattan Project, and I was in half days. Because like I said, we wake up super early in the morning for work, so I'm in half days Googling it. I'm reading about the Manhattan Project, the actual bomb, like to make the nuclear bomb. I'm reading it, I was like, man, they must really look into history. I was like, oh, fuck me. It's the actual Manhattan Project.
Yeah. So we, it started a while back, even, basically when we were just craft beer drinkers, and we came up with the idea, and at the time it was, we said, someone should do this, right? Because we just thought it was a good idea that someone should have that name, and it was, and then, that was kind of one of our pastimes when we'd be sitting around drinking beer, and we'd say, oh, be another cool beer name, like Oppenheimer, right? Yeah. And just, that one's a little bit punny. Some of them are just, straight up, named after historical figures or places. Like we have a saison it's not on the market yet, but it's called Oak Ridge Saison because Oak Ridge, Tennessee was where there was an enrichment plant. So, when we kind of started getting a little bit more serious about it, and we had to, and it was actually when we started entering the amateur festivals. I mean, you have to like pick a name at that point. Like before that, we were just people making beer, and so we're like, well, I guess we need a name now, right? So. They're like, when we on our entry form, it's there's a place for name, right? So we said, well, we always talk about this, and we kind of thought about it a while, and we were like, it's real similar to, it makes a lot of sense for us. It really ties in with like who we are and how we do things, because the Manhattan Project was originally really about assembling groups of people, with different skill sets that could come together and solve a problem, right? And what at the time was a really hard problem, and so we kind of look at it, similar in that, I have my certain skill sets. Jeremy Brott, our head brewer, has his certain skill sets, and then my wife and business partner Misty has her skill set. So she's, really creative. Her, she does all of our design, marketing, and things like that. Jeremy does all of the brewing, and then the stuff that's left over, like taxes and insurance, I get stuck with. So.
the real work.
The backbone, if you will. That's cool. Touching on like the logos and stuff.
Yeah,
the logos are really cool. Yeah. So you guys started out doing a lot of craft beers. Your group of friends, was it just a group of friends that all got together and started doing that, or just acquaintances, or how did that kind of come together?
So actually, it was probably about 7 years ago. Misty and I were planning our wedding, and it was going to be a really small wedding, 30-something people, and we were trying to do some cool things. Just everyone wants their wedding to be cool, right? So we wanted a custom beer for our wedding, and so we at the time, we weren't in business with Jeremy. We were just friends with he and his wife and Gia, and so we reached out to him and said, hey, would you do this for us? Would you make this beer for our wedding? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's get together this weekend. We're like, oh, well, the wedding's a year away. Like, he's like, no, I kind of want to get together, get started this weekend. So we sat down and we kind of talked about it. We said, well, it's a wedding. It's challenging. Is that you got grandma and grandpa, right? That probably aren't the biggest craft beer enthusiasts, like in their late 70s. Then you have your beer nerd friends, and then you got that occasional guest that likes to drink Budweiser. So you got to figure out how to make something that kind of
it goes across the
goes
board.
across, yeah. And so it had to be, you know, complex and interesting enough for our kind of beer nerd friends, but not, you know, super hoppy where grandma and grandpa would, you know, get kind of tripped out about it. So so we came up with a beer which we now call Inception because it was the first beer we did, and it was it kind of actually started life as an American brown ale, but then we kind of took it in a Belgian direction. So we used a Belgian yeast that gives a little bit more fruitiness, and I think we're on our 18th version of that recipe. But
Really?
but yeah, it's come together. We launched. It came out slightly after we launched it, and we stopped making it for a while because we're trying to figure out what we want to kind of do with the future of that beer. There may be some bottle conditioning or something involved in kind of making that beer in the future, because it's a hard beer to make. So
That's cool. Then one of the things I think you have to worry about too is, you know, compared to like, you know, Budweisers and stuff like that, most craft beer styles have a higher alcohol content. So that's something too to think about. You don't want to get people too tipsy too quickly at the wedding.
yeah, you know, I mean, I'm sure there will be a time in our future where we probably actually consider on the onset what the alcohol content of a beer is going to be. But for the most part, the alcohol content is really just a result of trying to achieve a certain, you know, flavor profile or mouthfeel or whatever. Because that's really what we're focused on is, you know, and people say taste, but, you know, like I like to say like the flavor experience or the drinking experience, because it goes beyond that. You know,
multiple aspects.
Yeah, you see it, you smell it. You know, when you drink it, you don't just get flavors; you actually also get a mouthfeel. So, you know, if the beer's overcarbonated or undercarbonated, that's gonna affect how you perceive that beer. If it's too dry or if it's too sweet, it's going to not only affect the flavor, but it also affects the mouthfeel. So, you know, getting all of those aspects spot on is really what we try to do, and how we feel like, you know, potentially we can distinguish ourselves in the industry. So
I like the way you explain it. I don't know much about beer. I'm getting into like learning more about beer through Andrew, me and Kirsty. But how I try to explain things when I drink a beer and why I don't like most 90% IPAs is because there's an initial wave of flavor that hits you up front, and it doesn't give you time to savor what's going on. You know?
yeah.
So that's why I really don't like IPAs.
Yeah, which okay, so this is interesting. And something else is kind of cool is that, I mean, none of us have a formal background. You know, none of us went to like a beer college or anything like that, or worked in the beer industry. So, you know, kind of working together, you just develop your own way of communicating. And one of the things we talk about is like, I see it in my head. It sort of looks like a roller coaster, right? Like the flavor kind of builds, and then, you know, it kind of drops off, and then, you know, maybe there's like a little, but there's no like jerkiness in it. Like sometimes, you know, you'll taste a beer, and like you said, it'll hit you all up front, and then it just falls flat.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like a roller coaster that takes you all the way to the top, and then, you know, then there's no track. You just hit the ground, you know? And it's like, no, like I want it to be exciting. I want it to go high. I want it to go fast, you know? But, I mean, but I want it to be like in a controlled fashion. So that's definitely like how we approach the drinking experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Good way to put it, because, you know, you know, when you drink a beer, depending on the different beers, you'll get those certain, you know, in the beginning it'll taste this way, and you'll get little different flavor profiles along the way. So that's a really good way to put it.
Well, you know, okay, so you brought up something that you said, I don't know much about beer, and it's interesting because like I just say we make beer for people with palates. So like, you know, like everyone has an opinion on whether like a Snickers or a Milky Way is better, but no one ever says, I don't know, you know, I'm not like a candy bar aficionado. Like I can't really, you know, it's like, no, I mean, you either like Snickers or Milky Way. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
You like what
now,
you like, kind of thing.
Yeah, the more you learn about it, maybe you can be more verbose in your description, or you can pinpoint things, or you can, you know, and actually understanding the brewing process helps you to kind of communicate about it, you know. You know, but yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, it's just, I mean, do you like it or not? And then the more you learn about it, you can be a little bit more specific about describing what you like and don't like. But at the end of the day, I mean, do you like it or not? you know?
Exactly. That's true. That's a good way to put it too. How did you get into craft beer? Like when did you first get exposed to the craft beer scene?
Well, I don't know. We may get some comments for this one, but this wasn't necessarily. I think Shinerbach is sort of, marginally considered craft beer, but I think it's definitely different than the other kind of light lagers that are on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely beer choice on this show.
oh yeah. So it was when I was in college, and I may or may not have been of legal drinking age. And
Let's go legal.
Neither confirm nor deny.
a friend of mine may have provided me 2 Shinerbachs, and so I was kind of holding both of them, and by the time I got to the second one, it had warmed up, and my experience and what I knew about beer at that point was that if it's warm, it's going to taste bad, and come to find out, I've learned later that the warmer something is, the more you can taste it. So it's not that cold beer is better. It's just that you can't taste how bad it is, right?
Exactly.
So the more it warms up, the more you can taste it. And I was drinking this warm Shiner, and I was like, you know what? This is drinkable. Like, this is not bad. Like, so there's something here. And kind of from there, it just, started going, okay, well, let me try this Newcastle over here, and let me try this Guinness. And then, started doing some more of the American stuff, the Stones, the Lagunitas, and and just kind of went from there. And it's just, I think when someone's tasted a good craft beer, they know. Like, they're like, oh, okay, this is better.
This is what everybody's talking about.
Yeah,
No,
that's what everyone's
definitely.
talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel that way now when I drink Stella. Dos Equis is probably my go-to beers here when I go to the bar. If I'm not drinking shots, I'm drinking those 2 beers. But you definitely taste a difference coming from drinking local, especially Texas craft beers. There's a lot of local breweries here that really love what they do. And like I said, I may not be an IPA fan, but I could definitely see why people do what they do and what they're trying. It's good. I like it.
Well, I did bring a couple IPAs. So.
I know,
That's all right.
and he was telling me that, so we're going to give you a chance to convert him. He's had a couple that he's liked, so there's definitely ones he's out there that he likes.
Well, I come to find out, I was hanging out with the guy from Martin House who had Chad. Is this Chad? Is his name Chad? I can't remember. My friend Sam was going to kill me. He introduced me to him, and he had a newer IPA called Friday IPA. It was pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it. But talking to them, apparently Oregon does a different way they make their IPAs, a little different. And my friend Sammy, who also is an IPA hater, loves Oregon's way they brew IPAs up that way. So I'll have to go try it.
Yeah, there's definitely like some regional, so one of our IPAs is
West Coast?
a Northeast style, and
There's a Northeast style IPAs?
yeah. So it's obviously big in the Northeast. It hasn't really made its way down here. I think there's another group, Turning Point, that's just about to get started. That's going to make some. Then there's a group in Houston that's I can't recall who that's making one, but so yeah, they're kind of what distinguishes them is that they're typically not as bitter, right? So they don't have as much of that hop bitterness. But they still have a lot of hop flavor and aroma, and then the hop strains that they select and that you use in the Northeast IPA, as well as the yeast strains that you use, produce like a more of a citrusy, fruity flavor. Where
like it.
the West Coast tends to be a little bit more kind of piney and resiny. So these are just like so like Half-Life is Northeast style IPA. So yeah, it's got you get some kind of notes of like grapefruit and they also tend to be cloudy because use kind of different malts like wheat and oats and different things in there to kind of modify the mouthfeel. But yeah, I think that would be I think that'd be a great place.
You had me at North. I'm originally
That's
from
what
New
got
York
it.
City.
I think he
Okay.
really likes the floral on a bouquet when you first smell it, because the ones that we tried before that he really cared for kind of had that, and I think maybe the fruitiness would probably
Maybe
go for
I
him.
definitely like more balanced taste. If I'm gonna drink an IPA, any beer, I just like balance to it. I like to have initial flavor, and
Yeah.
then as I savor it, there should be a second onset of something going on.
Yeah.
Now, I may not be able to describe what it is, but I know there's something different that's hitting
Yeah.
as I drink it. And a lot of problems I have with IPAs is that it's just a rush of flavor, and there's nothing in the back end, So no.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people that aren't IPA fans, they don't like the hop finish, which would be at the end, right? So that'd be kind of like that sort of metallic bitterness that kind of follows the IPA. But you're more like you don't like what's on the front of
Yeah,
it.
I don't like the rush of it. I want to savor it. Now the back end, whatever the back end is, it could be. I may like it, I may not like it. I just don't like anything, even with cooking. So how I was trying to describe it before is when I cook, I don't want a super amount of seasoning on my food. It should be well balanced when you cook your steak or your chicken, your pork, or your rice. Whenever you cook, it should be balanced. You shouldn't have a rush of flavor when you first take a bite into it. There should be something savory about it. And then as you bite and eat, you experience something else. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but you might like the back end taste. You might like the front end taste of it. It depends who you are, but it should be well balanced throughout.
No, we totally. I mean, that's definitely like part of our philosophy is to keep everything in balance, and it's tough sometimes, right? Like with Plutonium 239, our coconut porter. I mean, the coconut's good, and so you're tempted to add more coconut, more
But
coconut.
you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people
too much
get
coconut. Just FYI.
What's that?
There's such thing as too much coconut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think people, don't realize that, or I don't know. I think, and it's not just talking about in the beer world, but yeah, you said like in cooking too. It's like, hey, you don't have to just because it's good doesn't mean you have to add
overboard with
more
it.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's try the Plutonium.
All right.
See how it goes.
Salud.
Cheers.
Salud.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to introduce Ziggy, the man behind the veil. We got rushed right into it.
Hello, everybody. I'm just over here writing pitch names for the brewery.
I like it.
Very nice.
This is more my style. The reason why I like stouts more is because it's exactly what I want out of a beer if I'm going to drink it. It's a well-balanced flavor when you first drink it. You have either a chocolatey note or a coffee note to it, and then you have the back-end flavors of the coconut as you drink it.
Yeah, I really smell the coconut when you're first going in for it. It's got that kind of like that smokiness on the end.
Yeah, and so and we use toasted coconut. We use real coconut, not the extract. And I'm not, a lot of times we do use extracts, like we use vanilla extract.
Sometimes you have to.
Yeah, I mean, when it makes sense, we do it. But for the coconut, the extract, you might as well just kind of squeeze some suntan lotion in your beer because it has that kind of like
That same, like the
that
oil.
same like and it's just not right. So yeah, we it was actually really hard when we were making small batches of this beer. It was fine, we could just kind of roast it in the oven or whatever, and then when we were kind of doing the math and we're like, okay, we're gonna need how many hundreds of pounds of this, and so we're kind of running the calcs and we're like, okay, we need to find a supplier because it's unsweetened and it's unsalted and
So it's basically raw.
it's just plain coconut that's been toasted.
Yeah,
and
like
that's
raw,
really for some reason that's really hard to find. You can find plain coconut, you can find
I know a
salted
guy.
coconut. But anyways, we ended up finding a supplier and they were really awesome. They
Were they
let us kind
Dominican?
of pick what size granularity we wanted, how much toast level we wanted, and it's cool that we weren't just at the mercy of the supplier to just whatever was on the shelf. They actually worked with us to get it exactly how we
How
wanted
you like
it.
it.
So
No, it's always good when you have that partnership with somebody. That's how you know the person you're buying from is not Dominican. You get what you get when you shop with Dominicans.
So I've tried some other beers that have coconut supposedly in there, and I don't really feel like the coconut flavor really shines through. But I mean, you smell the coconut when you go in for a drink, and then you do get that roasted coconut, and it's very well balanced.
yeah,
Very
so
good.
Where can we buy these? Not the Dallas beer glass. No, not that. The actual, what do you call it, the nitro?
what's that? The plutonium?
Plutonium, there's it.
Usually what I do is I actually just get on Untapped, the app, and see where people have checked into it last.
I have it on my phone.
Because because with the the way that bars just rotate through, it's really hard to say exactly where we are at any given moment. Which that's actually
A good problem to have, right?
but that's. I wish we could just go to our website and you can see exactly where we are at any moment.
That'd be great.
But it's really, if you think about what it would take, so say you have a keg of something on somewhere, and it's a Friday night, bartender's busy as hell, the keg blows. Like, is he going to like log into some app and be like, oh, this keg is no longer on?
In the middle of a rush, yeah.
In the middle of a rush, and then it's like, oh, well, we've kind of thought about, is there some way we could integrate it with the point of sale systems, but now you've got Aloha and Micro and all these new ones that are on iPads. And so, yeah, man, it's a pretty tough problem to solve. So.
I can see the logistics going to be kind of challenging. So when I first tried your beer, I live in Fort Worth. And so Taps and Caps is out there where I live. And like theirs, I was able to check on their website. They have a little thing. But theirs is strictly for that. And so they're very up to date with it all. And so that's a whole different story. But I went out there and tried the Half-Life, and really, really good. But so that was my first experience. So do you guys do bottles or cans yet? Or is that in the works? Or
So I guess, man, maybe this is a good segue. When we get our production facility opened up, we will open with a canning line. So the timeline's still a little bit loose on it, but we're shooting for early next year to have our production facility. So for people who don't know, we actually have what's called an alternating proprietorship agreement with Bitter Sisters Brewery in Addison. And so basically, that's just like a fancy way of saying that we lease time on their equipment to go make our beer, and we have kind of like some space where we store our stuff. And yeah, they were like
good people over there.
Yeah, really good people. And so but they've obviously got a business to run, and so this was always they wanted to help us get started, but we were able to do that. But yeah, we definitely the whole time been looking towards opening a production facility, like a brewery with a tasting room. And so we hadn't really released much yet, and then we went in for some zoning. We applied for some zoning modifications, and then it kind of became public record at that point. So, yeah, I will say we do have a property in West Dallas, kind of near Chicken Scratch, if you guys are familiar with that area.
No, sir.
I'm a Fort Worth man.
Fort Worth guy? Okay, well, so when you're coming in I-30, and like right before you get to downtown, there's like the Belmont Hotel and Sylvan 30. So right there. So it's basically right off Commerce, just kind of outside of downtown.
Not too far from our job.
Yeah.
Like literally like 2-3 minutes from where we work. I was going to say the name.
Not to be named.
It will not be named.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I can speak freely about where I work.
Yeah, I don't think our employees would approve of us.
Well, our manager, she approves. She just say, hey, just keep it.
Our manager approves it, but I don't think the company will.
No, the
approve
company
of us.
itself. Who knows?
But,
Yeah, so the use, just if you guys want to kind of nerd out for a second, so technically it's alcohol manufacturing is how Dallas defines that use. And so we're the property we have under contract, it's allowed, but you have to have what's called a specific use permit. So with a specific use permit, basically it's a certain, they put a certain expiration on it, and just so that, like, if you're a nuisance, that the neighbors can kind of, object to you being there and things like that. But yeah, so right now we're kind of in the process of, talking to all the neighbors, and I think for the most part, I mean, it's still a transitional area. You've got kind of apartments to one side, you've got the post office on the other side, but it's going to be a really cool, like, urban kind of redeveloped area.
It's a good spot to have it. Have you guys got any feedback about y'all being there, possibility of opening up shop there?
Yeah, man, everyone we've talked to, I mean, it's kind of hard, like, who objects to a brewery? Yeah. So there's a construction company that's offices across the street, and I saw, there's a guy walking out, and I was kind of taking some measurements, and he's like, so you guys going to build some more condos over here, kind of. I was like, no, we're doing a brewery. And he's like, and like his face just lit up, and he's
I
like,
got somewhere to drink after work.
He's like, what? And he's like, so wait, are you going to sell beer here? And I was like, yeah, we'll have a tasting room. I was like, obviously we'll be shipping it to bars and restaurants and stuff, but we'll have a tasting room. And he's like, so I'll be able to leave work, walk across the street, and drink beer? And I said, yeah.
You better be here.
And so I think he's in support.
Yeah,
I think you got one. I think, but the apartments over there, they're younger neighborhoods. They're younger people. From when I hang over there, like the apartments are newer. They're younger people there. So I think everybody will be down, and that's a good spot.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, so
open
we've
rotation of people coming out to drink.
we've talked to some of the folks in the management office and kind of let them know what's going on, and they're really excited about it. Right now, there's no pedestrian gate that goes from the apartment to like it. There's not a close one like on that side of the street. So I'm going to try to convince them to put a gate in.
Sweet talk on it.
Yeah, so we can have a little bit. But I mean, 'cause that's the intent of these neighborhoods is to be kind of more walkable and not to where everyone has to drive to it and everything. So
It's one of the downfalls about Texas. I've been to different urban areas, and it's kind of nice to use like public transit. I've been up to Seattle a bunch of times to visit my friend that lives over there.
What do you mean by
but-
urban?
Like downtown.
Massachusetts.
Yeah. What do you mean urban? So he's from New York, so he knows about walking around all over the place. But
I used to.
Used
Not
to.
anymore.
Fat
Fat now.
But it's here in Texas. We all take cars everywhere, and there's a freedom that comes with that, but also
I'll drink that.
some more plutonium
You
239.
want some?
Sure. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Where do you live out here in Dallas as well, or?
yeah, so actually we just so I was own a house in like North Oak Cliff that we're actually selling right now, and we just moved into the apartments that are right there.
There you go.
So I won't give out my apartment number, but we're very close.
239.
No, it is not. It is not 239. It is several thousand off
You're
from
right.
239. Yeah. So that's cool. It was somewhat a coincidence, when we kind of made the decision to sell our house, and because we have like a 10-month-old little baby.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank
Nice.
you.
Very cool.
And obviously just like starting this business and things, and so we just kind of wanted to simplify for a bit. And we wanted to stay in the neighborhood, and so we started looking at apartments, and that was that community right there, which is Pike West Commerce. We really liked the community, and so we decided to live there, and
Very nice.
just like I said, semi-coincidentally ended up being right next to the property we have under contract.
So not a long commute to work by
No.
any means.
It was by accident.
Do you have to worry about a designated driver?
No,
That's cool. So 10-month-old, boy or girl?
boy,
Boy, very nice.
Yes.
I have a 9-month-old, so
boy or girl,
daughter. Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know.
Well, maybe
all
they,
the struggles.
do some play dates here soon.
There you go. There you go. We can hang out at the brewery.
Absolutely.
Out through that pedestrian gate that needs to be built ASAP, guys. At the apartment
No,
complex.
I do like so. Any ideas of how you want to do the tasting room? Like how you want? Because we're gonna go support Bitter Sisters this weekend. We'll be there around 2:00, and support the Bitter Sisters. And then the day you open yours, we'd be there and support you guys and make videos and take pictures and things like that. But anyone who comes there, we try to go support. So, but I like looking at different design of breweries because I've been to Raw,
Martin
House, a few
Petticolas.
others, Petticolas.
Yeah, so we're getting, we're working with the city planning right now to kind of work through some of these zoning things that we have to deal with, and so kind of waiting on an answer to a couple questions, and then I think at that point we'll be kind of ready to put out some renderings and stuff. At least they're still
exciting, man.
initial.
It's gonna be really exciting for you.
But yeah, I mean, our concept is, we always wanted to be in kind of in the middle of a community, which is tough because, I mean, you get in the middle of a community, square footage becomes more expensive. It's much easier to just, go out,
It's like
10
an
miles away and
industrial
get
kinda area.
an industrial park for, $10 a square foot annual, really, really low cost. But we felt it was important to kind of what we want to do and kind of who we are as people, because we feel like our personalities kind of reflect in the company, and so definitely want to have and it's really, there's some laws in Texas that make it tough because they make you physically separate the tasting room from the brewery. You have to be able to lock it off, close it off, and so
Any
it's
particular reason why?
it's just, I think, I don't know. It's
No unannounced guest brewing coming in.
or
tamper with
I
anything.
don't know. Someone could just put their mouth around a hose and start drinking beer directly out of the fermenter. I don't know.
That hasn't been. That's never happened before, guys.
I mean, TABC definitely wants you to like watch over things very closely, monitor things, keep track of things.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so I think that's part of it. So that presents a design challenge where when people go to a tasting room to a brewery, they want to feel like they're part of a brewery. They want to kind of be sitting amongst the tanks and all the stainless steel and but then the law says you have to be able to separate it. So we definitely want to try to integrate those two, at least visually, as much as possible, and then definitely want to be integrated with the kind of with the street and the sidewalk as well. So we don't want it to kind of be like a no-name sort of industrial looking door and you go through and don't know, like we want it to make visual sense for people that walk up and can say, oh look, here's like I can go have an experience here and it'll be inviting to the outside. So
That's
a
awesome.
good place to pregame, especially if we're gonna be in community. Like you go there, like, all right, we go down to Manhattan Project real quick, grab a few drinks, hang out, maybe play some games, and then go downtown Dallas or go Euless. Do something, but that's a good place to start, especially with people. You gotta have people like with family members, like kids, young kids, want to come by and just have a few beers with their family, coming from the park or something, doing something with their kids.
Yeah,
in the
definitely.
neighborhood.
yeah, so well, we're going to have at least a small amount of kind of just undeveloped green space, and depending on how much forgiveness we give on parking requirements, the less parking we're required to do, the more green space we're going to have. So
That's awesome.
So that's trying to convince the city to not make us do as many spots as the numbers work out to be, but yeah, we'll see on that. So
That's
it's
cool.
going to be
I
very
think that's really
kind of definitely have an outdoor feel. There's some beautiful trees on the site already. There's this massive 32-inch tree trunk elm tree that's like 60 feet tall, and
been
so
growing for years and years.
yeah, I mean it's probably nearly 100 years old. So yeah, we're incorporating that into the design. So it should be pretty cool.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're stoked about it.
So how you guys have been around since y'all first got together? How long it's been? What, like 7 years? Is that what you said? How long's the whole process been since y'all first kind of grouped up, made the first batch, and then till now?
Yeah, it's probably been about 7 years. It's it's sort of an evolutionary process, right? You make one beer, that's kind of step one, and then step two, you decide you might want to make another, and then another, and then you say, well, now we've got 3 beers. We have enough beers to enter into like a festival. So, Brew Riot is an amateur kind of homebrew festival that happens in Bishop Art. This year was kind of postponed, or I don't know. There was an alternate event, but it's been going on for a while. That's kind of where Four Corners got their start. Oak Highlands got their start there, and so yeah, we started there in I want to say maybe 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. And that's kind of when the first contest we and so we won. So what is now Half-Life won gold medal IPA that year, and so
Congrats.
and we were really excited because IPA is a really competitive category, and just to kind of come in there and win a gold medal was pretty exciting. And then that just kind of makes you want to come back and get some more.
You're like, I gotta
right?
knock some more out.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough that we did pretty well, kind of in the metal category, and people gave us really good feedback on our beer, and it just was like, okay, well maybe and then everyone starts asking, so when are you gonna go pro? When are you gonna start brewing commercially?
Well.
And it's like, well, no, that's not what we're just amateur guy. And then you
You
hear
get
it
everybody
enough,
telling
it
you,
becomes
yeah.
a self-fulfilling
Yeah,
prophecy, right?
I could do it. Yeah,
That's
I got this.
cool. So who comes up with the ideas for the different styles, the different specific beers that you guys come out with? Is it a group collective thing, or you say, I want to go make a new barley wine, or who comes up with the ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's all that's sort of. We all kind of have the things that we work on that are kind of specifically ours. But as far as like the product itself, that's something that we always come together on. And any one of us could have the idea. Sometimes we see something going on in a different market or in this market, or we just say, man, and it's really stems from what beer do we like to drink.
Yeah.
So the other day, a while back, we were, I was just kind of going to or I was looking to buy beer or something, and I was like, I just want a good old-fashioned pale ale, just nothing too complicated, nothing too hoppy, nothing too like flavor intense, right? And I was kind of thinking about it, I was like, we don't really exactly have that in our portfolio. So we started talking about that, and we've actually brought one of our experimental beers,
Experimental pale ale.
our experimental pale ale that we're working on right now.
Super excited to try.
So I'd love to get your
Let's-
guys' feedback on it.
We
You guys want to?
Yeah, let's bust it out. I mean,
All right, let's do it.
we're bad about managing time here on the show, so especially when the beers start getting involved, we make it pretty
We
good.
need like
time
that
go by.
TED Talk timer.
Oh, I know. That would be awesome. That's a good idea.
I was thinking about getting a wrap it up timer.
Yeah.
From Dave Chappelle.
Wrap it up.
So while we're doing that, I guess I have a question. Has there been a beer where the name came first?
Not yet, but there's a great name which I
being
won't
reserved.
I won't mention. I'll tell you off air. Just
Yeah, don't mention it here. Don't want no one taking it.
yeah, because it's not trademarked or anything, and But yeah, so I will tell you off air what this, because there is a super cool name that. And all I know is that the beer is going to be at least 12% alcohol, and this is one that's going to be alcohol driven.
Okay, deal.
Okay.
So
12%. That's my kind of beer.
Because if you're interested, I have written some names down here.
yeah, let's hear it.
Let's go for it.
All right. Fat Man and Little Bach. I have become Dunkel, the Destroyer of Worlds.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Los Alamos or Alamo Gordo.
I always have time to write
It'll
that.
Fuchs You Up, named after Manhattan Project scientist Klaus Fuchs. I can't remember writing half of these. United States Atomic Energy Kolsch Mission
Oh.
and Department of Substitute Malterials.
Very
Let's
nice.
go. Ziggy with the
You
lines.
can keep them on retainer for a small 6-pack a week.
He'd be at the brewing house coming up with
Very
new
nice.
names for you guys.
So we used to have originally we intended to do a kind of a fat man and little boy deal, and
And those being the bombs, right?
yeah, and then like when you name a beer Little Boy, it gets somewhat misinterpreted or misrepresented, or so we just decided to not go that direction. So.
No, I understand.
Very nice.
Little boys. No, I'm super excited to try this. It's my kind of beer.
I think these may have gotten all mixed up.
No, it's
Oh,
fine.
it's all good.
No,
Not at all.
I'm not a beer purist or a germaphobe. I am not Jerry Seinfeld. For anybody who did not see that, Jerry Seinfeld ran away from Kesha this weekend on the red carpet. It was hilarious. YouTube that shit.
Smells very nice. All right. So can you tell us anything about this experimental project?
Smells delicious.
So yeah, we're it's got
Oh wow.
it's got some really. I mean, I'm
got-
gonna keep it kind of
Yeah, keep it generic. You don't
keep
have
it generic. It's got some. It's got a new yeast that we haven't used in a beer before that we really like.
Wow.
That does some really interesting stuff with the hop flavors, and then it's actually got a New Zealand hop in there that's kind of a very interesting hop as
This is
well.
a
So.
beer.
That has so much flavor.
This is the beer you
Wow.
sit by the pool while you're grilling with a bunch of friends, having a good time.
Yeah, and so that's kind of
Or go on the lake. You go on the lake and you drink this beer. This is the beer you want to have.
I'm just amazed at for a pale ale because different pale ales I've had in the past. It's got so much flavor, like so much, just very bright.
yeah, and like you mentioned, like so it's definitely not an IPA. Definitely doesn't have kind of the bitterness level or the hop intensity. But the hops that are there, you can definitely taste them because there's not like a real. So we talk about like a malt bill, right? So malt bill is all the grains, and that's usually where you get the sweetness and kind of that the upfront flavor. And so the malt's pretty light on this, so that some of those hop flavors and aromas can come through. the yeast really helps out with that, and then it's lower IBU, so it finishes really clean. So yeah, it's just, I mean, it's kind of what you want when you want a pale ale. You want some, like if you just wanted to like drink something wet, you could have a lager, right?
Yeah.
If you want a little bit more interest, I think pale ale is where you want to be without
getting too
knocking your face off. Yeah.
No, but it's like what I think about this. I drank it all.
So oh, okay.
yeah.
Would you guys purchase a pint of this at your local bar or
man,
restaurant?
definitely.
Yeah, I'm buying a
And
20-pack.
For
It doesn't
sure.
even exist.
those unknown play packs. Yeah,
But,
this is really, really good. So one of the things that seeing different reviews about you guys that I've seen thus far is that everyone seems to really enjoy the dedication and kind of the details you guys put into the flavor profiles of the beer. And this one really, honestly, really shines through. It's very, very good. Was this the one you were saying that you kind of came up with on a whim when you started out the quest for it when you were in the supermarket?
Well, I mean, when you were saying, where do their beer ideas come from? So I just felt like I wanted something in our portfolio that it was basically a pale ale, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't quite an IPA, but was more interesting than a blonde, right? Kind of that sweet spot in between. And so Jeremy, our head brewer, he's always experimenting and reading articles, and when new hop strains or new yeast strains come out, he's reading about them, he's playing with them, figuring out what they do, and so that's what's great about having. I mean, he's a super talented brewer and just really dedicated to it, and when I taste something and I say like, hey, can we achieve this? Like, can we give it more mouthfeel? Can we make it? He's like, he knows exactly how to make that happen, right?
Wow, that's
so
Good person to have, man.
yeah. So he this was I mean, I don't know, man. Ideas bounce around and go all around. So Misty and I were in Sydney, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a brewery there called Four Pines, and they make a beer called like Indian Summer, I think.
Interesting name.
What's that?
Interesting name.
Yeah, and some of the that one was kind of really inspiring because that was because a lot of times I think when people think pale ale, they may think like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which is a great beer. I love it, but it does have a pretty strong malt profile.
Yeah.
But this is more of like a kind of like the malt just a little bit subdued
Toned
malt
down.
profile.
Yeah.
So
That's very tasty. So I know.
do we need refills?
Oh,
guys?
yes, definitely.
Oh man, yeah, definitely.
There's no shame in my game.
So we're still putting the finishing touches on this one, but
Well, I think you guys are definitely on the right track for sure.
Definitely a winner in my book. So far, everything we have tried from you guys. And when I go, I don't go to Taps and Caps, but I do go to a place called Social Pie that has had a few of your stuff on there on tap as well. Everything's been a winner.
They had the Half-Life, I want to
They
say.
did have the Half-Life. Everything's been a winner so far.
yeah. So they're what street is that? Maple.
Maple.
That's Maple.
Maple. Okay. Yeah. So they're over there, kind of medical district.
Yeah.
Yep. Somewhat near.
Yeah,
where we're
yeah,
familiar
great.
with.
Yeah.
Great
We know that
pizza.
area somehow.
Somehow.
I had a salad there one time too that was just like
It is good, man.
Yeah,
It's a good little spot.
You don't often have a salad that just kind of like impresses you.
Yeah.
You're normally like, oh, this salad's all right. But
Yeah.
that salad was like, man, I want like another one of those salads. That's
Well,
And
good.
another beer to go with
Everything
it.
so far, since it's a new restaurant, has been great. The happy hour is phenomenal. From 2 to 7, the happy hour is great.
Yeah.
You get like, 30% of all the beers on tap. And if you do the flights, they're like almost 50% off.
Nice.
So you get like $1.50 to almost $1 on some for the flights. And you get to
Yeah.
try everything on tap.
Pizza's good. You mentioned salads are good.
Yeah.
I had a really good salad at Cane Rosso. They had a really good salad.
What do you get
It was
the
the-
Mista or
That was
the
Cap-
Caesar?
It has the goat cheese and I want to say it's like a Capra or something like that. I don't know if that sounds right.
I usually just stick to the
Stick to what I
the
know.
pizza.
Yeah.
I do get the Caesar salad occasionally, but
Yeah.
man, yeah, their margarita pizza is.
Have you had the
Flawless.
Honey Bastard?
I have not.
So my wife and I, that's all we get now. It was like one of their little side menu things. It's good. It's kind of spicy. Very good. Highly recommend that one. But yeah.
No, I'm just still drinking this beer. Hold on.
Yeah, very tasty.
Yeah, name's not picked for this yet, right? We have
It's kind of
Tentatively in the works. I would
Yeah,
say.
it's
we
kinda
have a
picked,
list of
but-
10 from Ziggy, but feel free to use any of those.
yeah.
Right.
I think it will work.
Yeah.
So when you do travel, do you like try to see what they're doing or taste what they're doing, or do you ask? Or you just admire?
Oh,
from afar?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we had a blast in Sydney because, we were just there on vacation. And so, we're going to these places at like 2:00 on a Tuesday, right?
Oh, yeah, so empty.
And so, it's just empty. And so everywhere we went, we talked to head brewers, we talked to owners. And they've got some challenges over there because the way their taxes work, it's based on the alcohol percentage. And so,
Bullshit.
yeah, so it's really somebody was telling me they have a beer that's maybe 8%, somewhere around 8% alcohol, and they said that the taxes cost them more than the actual cost of beer, right? It's like, so when they make the beer, whatever the raw ingredients plus the labor plus whatever is less than what they have to pay in taxes. So yeah, you'll find that a lot of the beers over there are in like 4.5%, 5%.
Well, I was gonna make a comment earlier when you were Sydney. I was like, "Oh, a place of shitty beer." I didn't know that was they tax per percentage because every beer I've had from Australia is just weak and don't like it.
Well, and then the craft stuff is really not going to make its way 12,000 miles over here,
No,
right?
of course not.
So there's some Balter is kind of a new company there, and they're making this this XPA that's really, really good. But yeah, no, it was interesting because, and also it's Sydney. In all of Australia, I think something like 90% of the population lives within 10 kilometers of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very much like a outdoor culture, beach culture. It's warm there. It's very temperate climate, and so it was definitely interesting to experience that and go, okay, well, what are people doing with these 4.5% beers? Like how do they make a 4.5% beer interesting?
Shots.
Because you would
mix it in,
sidecar.
beer shot.
So I felt like that would kind of subdue some creativity, and if you're going for a specific style that inherently has a higher alcohol content sort of associated with it, wouldn't that kind of
Well, this is interesting. We could get into a pretty philosophical discussion about creativity because I think that I don't know. I feel like sometimes my creativity is the highest when I have the most constraints on me, right? Because
Okay,
I have to
work with what you have kind of
dig
thing.
deeper, and I have to be more creative, right?
Yeah.
I have to go, okay, now if I could make anything in the world, right? What am I going to make airplanes? Am I going to make? Well, now I focus it down
Shift
to
the
beer,
focus,
right?
yeah.
Now I'm gonna, and so yeah, if someone's like, hey, you got to make a beer that has this color and is between this and this alcohol content, and is you're gonna have to dig pretty deep to come up with something that
it's a quality product.
It's a quality product with that many constraints. And then a lot of times, whatever it is that you come up with, whatever that thing is that you dug really deep for, can translate, across your entire portfolio. So I don't know. I think
that's a good. That's honestly,
That's a
firsthand thinking about it, I would say, hey,
little
if you would think that-
sociology thing. I don't know if Ziggy could correct me or not. There's a vast study of human history of just human behaviors. Is people notice, because I took a lot of sociology classes, and I don't want to say I know what I'm talking about. I just vaguely remember, and this always connected to me. If you give a group of people options to do whatever they like, their creativity and their imagination is very stagnant because no one knows what they want to do.
It's too many options. Yeah.
But now when you give a person a structure to or limit their options of what they can do, creativity, productivity, imagination, drive, energy, it goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And there's a whole big study on it for years about it. But it's just that basic explanation of it is what always stuck with me. Is if you give a group of people a vast majority of options, they tend to be more chaotic. They may be imagination, energy, drive drops.
Yeah, and then they're actually less satisfied as well. Because I don't know. I guess this can go. I know we're getting a little away from beer, but
Hey, we have no problem.
We do it all the
I
time.
think it's
We
pretty
do it all the
interesting.
time.
Like I don't know if you guys the term decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Right, like if you have to make all of
Too
these
many
decisions,
decisions.
like yeah, and so that things like that can lead to that as well, and then people become unsatisfied with their
Well, and
life, and really interesting.
Well, the thing about on Saturday, not to be pessimistic either, suicide and depression affects all walks of life of people, right? Depression, suicide, that's something people who are manically depressed, there's chemical imbalances, they can't really help that. But depression is higher in the middle class to richer
Yeah, they're more upper
people
class.
because they have options now. They have choice. They could do what they want. They have the money to do it, but now they don't know what they want. So they get sad
Yeah.
and depressed. Where you have a working class person or a poor person, they don't
Focused
have-
on surviving
they can-
and making
what am I
money.
eat for today?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's a certain number, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's basic, and it's less than $100,000 annual income. But once you hit that number, they say that like up to that number, that the higher your income is, the more it's going to increase your happiness because you're able to eat and afford transportation and housing and all your. But once all of your basic necessities are taken care of, the additional money doesn't provide additional happiness. And I want to say that number's around $80,000. And so, kind of above and beyond that, it's it's learning to enjoy the things that you do have and learning to appreciate the world around you, and that's really what kind of gives you that the happiness and whatnot. So
Free plug for a guy I follow on Facebook. He's an Indian man from London. His name is Jay something. He does a lot of the videos of like happiness and love and things like that. His thing about pursuit of happiness is it's what really kills people, trying to be happy. That's not, you're not gonna find it that way. What you will find happiness is in purpose, doing something that's purposeful to you, meaningful to you, drives you to do it and find happiness. And he does an eloquent speech about it. I'm not doing it nowhere near justice.
But the general idea.
Yeah. But by all means, watch that video. But I looked at that, I was like, that's right, man. Like, I found myself, and I mentioned this more on the drinking aspect of it, because I'm slightly maybe an alcoholic. When I was 18, and I had to struggle, push pennies to drink, and we drank every weekend. I had the most amazing time of my life. I'm 28 now, and I can drink whatever I want. I go to any bar and order whatever I want to drink without a problem, and I have less fun now.
yeah.
I have less fun doing it.
Trade off, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta find a purpose in my drinking. That's why I made this beer show.
Yeah.
Find a purpose in my drinking.
Yeah, awesome.
So I want to try to convert him to the IPA realm.
Okay.
I know you said you had brought the. Do we have a?
I mean, we're a couple in. Should we just go straight for the hard stuff? Go for the West
We got
Coast?
Let's go for the West Coast, the Hoppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Hoppenheimer?
Yeah, let's go
Oh,
for
yeah.
it.
All right.
I want to, whatever you think you can convert him, because that's been like the test. Try to convert Victor to the IPA
I say
realm.
this to every brewer that comes in here. I will be always honest about how I feel about it, but I can always see why people like
Yeah.
that style of beer.
Shout out to
Penny Colas.
our friends at Petty Colas.
Oh,
He had
what
one.
did I miss there?
Oh, well, he had one. They were bringing out that Victor liked one of them. Sit down or I'll sit you down. He loved that
IPA.
one.
That's
But they were,
fun.
yeah, and so he was busting out the Crush It, and Victor was just like, hey, I could see why people would buy it, but he's like, I don't enjoy this particularly, and so he was very honest,
Just honest.
contrary to what most of us were thinking.
Well,
If they sat this in front of me, I would drink it,
Yes.
but I would not buy it in a store.
I would
That's
not
how-
buy-
Not seek it out.
Which I thought it was a good IPA.
No,
nice
I can-
little session IPA. It was tasty.
It was definitely tasty.
so did you guys, have you ever, from Petty Colas, have you ever had Thrilla and Brazilla?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought, I'm like, this needs to be a permanent beer. That's a fantastic beer.
So their pale barley one that they have there was really, really good, and the name escapes me now, but that one is pretty tasty too.
Another one, very smooth. I could smell. It smells delicious, and when you take the first sip, it's very smooth on the tongue, and then as you finish it off, more flavors open up, and it's just with you the
Awesome. So
entire time.
This makes your short list of approved IPAs.
Are you just
Yeah.
saying that just to say that, Victor?
No, definitely not saying to say it. I didn't even think it was an IPA because this doesn't taste like an IPA.
Yeah, and I mean it. So we classify this as a West Coast IPA. So it's kind of
Like an Oregon IPA.
probably more like California is sort of kind of like when you think of West Coast, you're thinking of probably Stone, Lagunitas, and then some of the smaller breweries. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Russian River.
No, sir.
So Russian River makes Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger, which are probably the two most sought after kind of IPAs, or at
Really?
least kind of historically were. There's some others that are catching up.
Have you tried?
I've had Pliny the Elder. Pliny the Younger, you actually have to like go there, and it's only available for a short period of time. And actually, Jeremy, our head brewer, he and his wife go every year for Valentine's Day.
Oh, nice.
And
I
and
need
so
a
for
wife like
Valentine's,
that.
yeah, for Valentine's Day they go drink Pliny the Younger.
That is
And
nice.
but yeah. So and actually, those are the two that are known. But there's another one by Russian River called Blind Pig.
Is this that's like the similar style of IPAs? as
Yeah,
this?
yeah, similar style. So pretty dry up front. Not a huge malt bill. Not kind of like an English IPA where it's real grainy and malty and bready. So just a little bit of caramel, a little bit of sweetness, just to kind of balance out. And then on the back end, it's 68 IBUs. So it's not super high on the bitterness, and about 7.4% ABV. So we kind of, this one is probably one of the few beers that we do that's truly like kind of to style. But if you were to look at like a West Coast IPA, we're kind of right in that category.
No,
so.
so
It's
I,
very tasty.
I think I haven't tried the East Coast IPA. Whenever you guys bring that
Northeast?
style up,
Well.
try it. But
Funny you mention it.
Can we
but-
squeeze that in?
yeah,
Well, we got 3
definitely squeeze it in.
minutes.
We got definitely squeeze it in. But this West Coast style IPA I do like. So I don't know if it's just the Texas style IPA is different that I don't enjoy.
Kill that.
Is there a different style for Texas IPAs?
I mean, I wouldn't say there's an established style. They tend to be a little bit more malt forward, and I don't know why that is necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, they tend to
Thank
be
you,
more
sir.
malt forward. They tend to have a little bit more kind of bitterness and not quite as. Not saying. I mean, a lot of West Coast IPAs can be super bitter, but
Yeah, it depends on who's making
Any
it.
style could be
So,
good or bad.
one of my favorites, I really enjoy Breckenridge 471 IPA.
yeah.
And I want to say it's dry hopped, where you get that real floral flavor. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of IPAs are going to be dry hopped, and for people listening that don't understand dry hopping, it's basically the main time you add hops in a beer is during the boil. So like, when you're actually kind of boiling and mashing and doing all of that stuff, that's when you add the hops the first time, and then you can also add hops like kind of post fermentation, and so that's called dry hopping. So. When you boil hops, there's chemical reactions that go on where you're isomerizing the alpha acids, and that's kind of what creates the bitterness. It changes the flavor profile. But when you dry hop, post-fermentation at kind of cooler temperatures, you're not getting any of that bitterness. All you're getting is the flavor and
Part of the
aroma.
flavor.
And some people would even argue that you're only getting the aroma. But yeah, that's and then different flavors, different profiles. So citrusy, floral.
What kind of hops are in here? Like
Simcoe, Centennial, Columbus, kind of all of the sort of standard West Coast hops.
So I noticed a lot more pale, a lot more cloudy.
Oh, I'm
if you will.
sorry. We're drinking Half-Life now.
Yeah.
Got me mixed up. So this is going to be more Mosaic and Citra. So,
sorry, that's so this is how I feel about this one. I like it. But like the similar to the West Coast one, and what's the one we had prior to the experimental one?
yeah.
I feel like the West Coast one and the one that you guys still developing are beers I want to drink, like no matter how I feel. Like if I open the fridge, I'm gonna grab that beer to drink it because it's delicious. This one, it tastes great. I like everything about it. Like I said, I think every beer we had so far with you guys is very balanced. From the
So-
smell, from the taste, to
Appreciate it, man.
as I finished my sip, there's another layer of flavor that comes in. And I wish I was more elegant with my words. I'm not. But I feel like there's something else coming in as I finish my sip. And it all tastes great. But for me, I have to want this. I wouldn't like put this on a 12 pack and put it in a cooler and go to like the lake.
And I kind of switched it up. So really, I should have given you this one first and then the Hoppenheimer second, because Hoppenheimer is it's like a bigger, more flavorful beer, and so it kind of mutes this one out.
I could see that.
But,
Yeah, especially when you kind of
this is Half-Life. This is our
No, it's
actually our
good.
biggest
So-
seller.
Yeah, it's great. This is the first one that I tried from you guys.
So people who are maybe I take this as I'm not enjoying this. I do truly enjoy it. But how I imagine drinking beer is, will I take it out to a party? Will I take it to a barbecue? Will I take it to going on a lake on a boat and hanging out with a bunch of people that may not like beer, so when they drink it too? Like, that's how I imagine what I would buy and drink. This is very delicious, by the way. But it's something I will want to go get for myself.
Well, I'm glad we could,
Definitely try
2
it out.
IPAs and a pale ale.
That's right.
Just- yeah.
Pale
That's
ales, we're on that time frame. This hour has gone by super fast. I
Yes.
greatly appreciate your company
Thanks
coming
for
on.
thanks for having me on.
man,
It was
Thank
fun.
you
I enjoyed
so much for coming in. It was
Yeah.
all delicious.
Yeah.
Every single beer was delicious, exactly. And then I learned a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
it. Sorry, I try not to nerd out and get too.
I
in
appreciate the
science
nerdiness.
I like it.
I really appreciate
This
it.
is a show for nerdy obsessions. It
Okay,
really
excellent.
is.
Yes. Very nerdy obsessions, but
Yeah.
you are always welcome on here, especially when your tap room does open up, or any other beers you want to bring up here and talk about. You're always welcome on here. Every video I'll make of this, I will tag you guys in it
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
and promote it. It's a pleasure. So we're gonna wrap it up where we do social media. So I'm gonna let you go first.
Where can
Where
we find
people
you
can
guys?
find you, can find the.
So the best thing to do is probably start with our website, manhattanproject.beer. That's not manhattanprojectbeer.com, because some people get that. It is actually manhattanproject.beer. So if you go there, we have links to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're on all of
Perfect.
those things. They're different names because we have a really long name and that doesn't work on everything. But yeah, Facebook, if you search Manhattan Project Beer Company, you can find us there. But yeah, we're on pretty much Instagram and Facebook are kind of our two main ones.
Awesome.
Perfect. I gotta find you guys on Instagram because we're gonna take a picture of this and I'm gonna tag you guys. It's been a
And
pleasure.
then I guess Untapped is really social media as
It's
well.
very
It
beer
is.
social media.
Yeah.
Beer
social
social
media,
media. So
definitely.
yeah, get on Untapped, check in, give us 5 caps. We'll toast you.
Shout out to Untapped. This is my favorite beer app.
Yeah.
Where we
Yeah.
can find you at, Drew?
You can find me at, of course, Dallas Beertalk. Find me on Facebook, Andrew Franklin, and then Instagram, Kinetics with the Z at the end.
And then, of course, Dallas Beer Talk. You can find me. You can find any of the hosts here. If you have any questions, if you have any beer suggestions, please send that all to Dallas Beer Talk. It's going to be on Instagram, Facebook. We do not have a Twitter yet. We will get on that. But starting this weekend, we also have all our shows on SoundCloud, so it'll be actual podcast. Come check us out. You could definitely find me on my personal Instagram, V Santana 148, and Victor Santana on Facebook. And then we got the man behind the veil, Ziggy.
I don't do social media because it is dumb, but you can catch me every Thursday at 8:30 at the Backdoor Comedy Club, every Saturday at 8 and 10:15 at the Backdoor Comedy Club, where I will be hosting The Late Show. And guys, I have a real plug this week.
You got a real one?
I have a real one.
What do you got for us?
Yeah, actually, last Memorial Day weekend, I was up in Indiana filming a new movie. I'm pretty excited about it. It is The Youngest Huxtable Child Overcomes Poverty to Play Football for Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
Rudy 2.
Maybe you know that young lady I met that's a makeup artist. Maybe she went up there with you that weekend.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in this week. We'll be back next week. And thanks to for coming on. And
Manhattan
anything?
Project. Thank you so much. Don't Google Manhattan Project unless you want a history lesson.
Throw beer in that Google search.
Throw a beer
throw
in there.
beer beginning to end. Throw beer somewhere in that line, and you'll find the right people.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. You hear from us soon. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, kids. Does everyone know what time it is? Yeah! That's right. It's time for a...